Greetings! I'm Rodger Newbold, host for this special travel edition, number 79 from Experience Photography. My friend and our editor for this episode is Mr. Matt Rich. Hey, my friend, are you secure in the editor's pod?
Editor's pod? I thought you said escape pod!
Folks, calm yourself. Grab a drink and relax. Because today we're going to go meandering on the back roads of Utah. You know, one phase in becoming more excellent as a photographer is simply living long enough to get past the many blunders possible while you're acquiring good craftsmanship. Another is surviving sufficiently to surpass the copy and imitation stages in order to realize and develop your own opinions. Maturing into the mellow, glowing patina of age does in fact involve a group of, well, nasty words. And I'm sorry about this, but they are words such as hospital, replacement parts, and pills. Oh, lots of pills. We found that healthcare needs do not bargain with you, nor do they even care about your next great road trip. When your doctor says, hey, we're putting you up on the hoist and we're changing that knee next week, that's it. And off Matt goes to get a new knee. Too bad about the excursion. Time doesn't even bother to blink. Even against your own conscious desires. If you are wheezing and you're suffering from severe pneumonia, like I did, and your glucose readings drop and sound the knell bell at 20, well, you just quietly cease normally vital functions. You just simply pass out. Well, I'm glad the alarm sounded somewhere, and a bunch of nurses came to the rescue. Now, in recovery mode, Matt and I continued unassigned photography in our respective areas. We were doing what we could to keep busy and keep photographing. Matt has been building a wonderful set of dark sky adventures with glorious celestial results. Take a look at some of these beauties that Matt has done. There's some great work. Wow. I like that. The Milky Way. Zion. Wow. I mean, this is splendid work, my friend. I'm so glad to see what you've been out doing. Personally, I have been watching and participating in what has transpired simply in front of me here in the urban setting. Looking at her street lamps and a simple couple reading sitting at Barnes & Noble. You know, life is only as precious as your mindset. A negative mind will never give you a positive life. Happily, we continued plotting and completing therapy and, well, taking a bunch of pills. But mid-May, Matt and I were finally able to coordinate out our life schedules, and we got back on the road again. Now, it took a lot of zigging and zagging to find the gap. By George, we did it. Now, we met up on southbound I-15 in Beaver, Utah. And I was loaded for excitement. I got there, oh man, there was Matt sitting there smiling and waiting, and we were ready to head east out on the interior of the state. Over 30 times, Matt and I have taken a route, some route, leading into the mesmerizing canyons of the Capitol Reef area. Now, one might ask, why? What do you expect to discover that you haven't found yet? Well, we presume that to be a legitimate question, since literal minds seek such precise answers.
There's Mr. Matt.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. And here am I. Can you see me? Yes, there we go. Got light. And we're here today. We're starting this marvelous trip. Now, we started this trip, what was it, year 2000?
Something like, well, we did it for more than 30 years.
Yeah, but this trip,
Yeah, about 2000.
year 2000, and I got COVID. And so I suffered, and Matt had some fun, but we're going back out to try and explore this place. And so this is going to be a special edition of This Week with Matt on the road. And I hope it turns out cool.
Neither of us are sick.
Yeah, neither of us.
It was about 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah. So
2020, something like that.
there's where we're at.
One of the ideas we had for the area is that Matt had previously visited in 2020. That's when I was there and got COVID, failed to make the destination that day. But that was our goal. But, as in all things well planned in the Old West, serendipity always deals at least one wild card. Now, this trip, we ambled along. We reached State Road 24. Now, that's one of the two roads that bisect the state of Utah eastward in that region. SR 24 is the old 1926 route that, cut through the Capitol Reef area and reached the terminus at about Hanksville, Utah. That selected byway still only sees a paltry 1,000 vehicles a day, and compared to the rest of the state, that's hardly any traffic at all. Now, in long stretches, it can be very lonely, and you may be the only car out in sight. For us, that destination out there was a pleasant relief. From the battle and the bustle and the clamor of city life, it was wonderful. Obviously, we were not the only slowpokes to find suitable reprieve passing through the villages of Fruita, Caneville, and heading towards Hanksville. Promptly, this is where we were dealt one of those wild cards. Very cunningly, right from the bottom of the deck. While we were in the low cruise mode, we spotted an old, tattered dwelling. It's in the more fertile and habitable area just past Caneville. Apparently, some other point in history, this had been suitable enough for someone to make a living, even construct a home and live there. Well, ghosts of the past and the declining well-being of this place presented plenty of motivation to me to inquire into something time-worn in these rural circumstances. Now, I've been used to shooting indoors and everything, and this was an interesting place. Here's the exterior of it. We pulled up, and as we dismounted from the truck, well, Matt's words struck terror into my bones. "Watch out for the snakes!" Now, my eyes were forced wide open. I proceeded very cautiously up to the structure, discoveries that no one had seemed cared about for at least a generation. There were no tire tracks, no signs of any recent presence nearby. Yeah, my hearing was sharply focused for the hissing or rattling of Matt's dang snakes. Oh, thank you so much. I tippy-toed softly. Yeah, I crept up to the old structure, keeping my face well back from the windows. Yeah, lest the flying, hissing batwing critter of some sort was to ambush my face. Oh, Matt, you sure know how to put me on tilt. There were no other apparent creatures, thankfully. They were not armed with a chainsaw or any reckless tools of my destruction. So I slowly moved in a little softer onward. Here's the interior. There was a torn screen and a fractured window pane. It really did provide a soothing safety net for me to get my first glimpse inside the dwelling. One thing I had learned recently from photographing in the urban environment and things inside is the minute you go inside a building, crank up your ISO to at least 1,000. And then open your aperture to maximum. It's a good place to start. It's something you just do. Now, your f-stop can now be adjusted to fit the depth of field necessary for any of the contemplated compositions you might see. So inside, the first discovery I made was an extremely cautious nose through the window was not something I expected. This residence was not as ancient as I had suspected. The strangling, dangling electrical wires and the more modernistic stove were far too new for pioneer settlers' use. With further creeping about the smelly ruins, inspection gave way to an electrical breaker or fuse box, which confirmed my conclusion about the age of this place. You know, breakers were only replaced cartridge fuses or screw-in fuses in the 1950s. So now I determined that the dwelling may have been constructed in the 30s, but it certainly had been updated far more recently. This struck a little bit of a moment of anxiety within me. There might have been even more modern hollow-faced ghouls lurking about in the darkened recesses. And that may have been worse than the snakes. The more we looked into the modern interior, I found a remaining lace-up boot. Rather than older-style pull-on footwear, it suggested that the residence had indeed been relatively contemporary. Being frightened about Matt's dang snakes, I hadn't really noticed or even dared wandering too far about, looking for the signs of the old death-defying style of outhouse. During my creeping exploration, however, I did find evidence that this place did have indoor facilities, at least at some point, even as spooky as it was. The light within the old place, well, it produced an eerie glow, smattered with floating transitional highlights, and of course the chilling black spaces for all types of unwanted vermin to hide. Oh, spine chilling, unearthing. Oh, brother. I'm rather certain that the filth and debris obscuring the floor, it must have rearranged itself every single night in that desert heat. Mysterious voices began echoing through the creaking edifice. It really gave me a start. Until I realized it was Matt telling me to get out of his picture from another window across the way. It was discernible to me that there had been strange occurrences in this antiquated pale house of decaying stucco finish. Sitting in the desert, who possibly needed a sparky electrical outlet head high in a room of flaking paint, shredding from the walls like ancient reptile skins? What devious purpose could this weird outlet possibly disguise? Well, the obsolete, peeling, and collapsing lath, chicken wire, and plaster ceiling required a far bit more cautious behavior. To be around anything in these imaginary specters, pointy, rusting nails, lacerating mesh, and unseen sharpies are to be carefully avoided when prowling through the remains of the day. You know, my mom always warned me about tetanus, a bacterial neurotoxin commonly present in environments, can become dangerous infection from any filthy puncture wound, and you don't want it. So if you decide to be an amateur archaeologist investigating and going through this type of stuff, your immunization record should be updated and great care observed. I'm still wondering about carrying a Boy Scout snakebite kit. Matt and his terrified warning. Is that really necessary? Well, who knows? But one thing I found for certain is photographer Joe McNally. He said, never pack up your camera until you've left the scene. And I found that was great advice, because you just never know, as we kept photographing and shooting around this old place. Well, we furnished our first investigations of the trip, and it had peaceful results. We came away with some thought-provoking images. We unearthed some history in a desolate valley. We had an amusingly fun time on day one of the Great Reef Adventure. We hope that you have been entertained and found this informative and of interest. Well, if you did, then give us a great big thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. Be a part of the group. Come on, please comment at the end and let us know what you desire to know about photography and about road trips and how we can help you. Here's a parting thought that I read from the Catalan artist Joan Miró. Said, continue to do great work. Continue to have fun in what you do. Most of all, help others as they ascend the path of greatness. Well, Matt and I are always here to be of assistance to you. So, before we depart, I tip my hat to you, and I offer you a fond cheerio until we meet again. See you soon.